Throughout the years, Nintendo has been experimenting with a lot of different things, and as you can imagine, a lot didn't make the cut. But for some reason, they always thought that adding a new sports game was a good idea, and so we got millions of those. Mario goes golfing, Mario goes kart racing, Mario does literally everything. He even went to the Olympics together with Sonic for some reason. However, there are also some games that didn't make the cut, surprisingly enough. I mean, after Mario Golf, I thought nothing was off the table. But there is one sports game we never got to experience where Mario and friends actually wrestle each other. So what was this game all about? Why was it cancelled? And could it have been any good if they did finish it? Well, let's find out. But first, introducing my new store, Wily.gg, the place to buy your new games and get your hands on eShop cards for Nintendo as well as Xbox. And don't forget, use code Wily at checkout to save 10%. Now let's continue. Now currently Nintendo is once again a giant in the industry. They were able to survive the rocky years with the Wii U and are on top once again with the Switch selling like crazy. But before this they had another smash hit, and in hindsight I actually don't understand at all why it was so popular. I'm of course talking about the Wii. It was released in 2006, and for this one Nintendo went with an interesting tactic. During the development of the console, Nintendo president Satoru Iwata directed the company to avoid competing with Microsoft and Sony on computational graphics and power. Instead, they were going to target a broader demographic of players with special gameplay experiences, stuff most consumers never got to try before. And so game designers Shigeru Miyamoto and Genjo Takada led the console's development under the codename Revolution. Now, thanks to its new feature of motion controls, it became a hit, and so Nintendo sold loads of them, while developing games for it was actually surprisingly cheap. And so the Wii repositioned Nintendo as a key player in the video game console marketplace. Heck, they even forced others to join in, because the introduction of the Wii led both Microsoft and Sony to develop their own competing products, known as the Kinect and PlayStation Move. Now in the end, Nintendo found that while the Wii had broadened the demographics that they wanted, the core gamer audience had shunned the Wii, and so the console generation that came after didn't do too well. But during the Wii golden era, they could do almost anything, and they would make millions. And so they created a lot of Super Mario sports games. Actually, just a lot of sports games in general. However, while the most crazy games were approved and made by Nintendo, some didn't make the cut, and one of those was called Super Mario Spikers. This was a cancelled volleyball wrestling hybrid game. I know it sounds weird, but it was a real idea, surprisingly enough. Now, it was being developed by Next Level Games, the makers of GameCube titles like Super Mario Strikers and its follow-up Mario Strikers Charged. Those were soccer games with a bit of an aggressive twist, with players bashing into each other and using power-ups to take each other out. And a while ago, they even released a new game in the series for the Nintendo Switch that really took the series to a new level. Although I have also heard a lot of stories that it's quite bare bones and feels unfinished in some ways. But we aren't here to talk about that. Now, aside from that soccer game that did become a success, they were planning on releasing this other weird hybrid sports game. But in the end, it never made it far past the initial concept phase. But why was that the case? And what was it gonna be about? Well, let's look into that. Now, development of the game began in late 2006, shortly after Next Level Games had completed Mario Strikers Charged. And as a reward for the success of the prior two Mario Strikers games, and Nintendo's general success with creating sports adaptations with Mario characters, Nintendo financed Next Level Games' efforts to create a pitch for a volleyball game, and also gave them a greater level of creative freedom with their characters for this new title. Now, the title started off as Mario Volleyball, a simple take on Mario characters playing volleyball, similar to Mario Golf or Mario Tennis. But over time, the development team decided to implement elements of wrestling into the game, which doesn't sound like a good fit with volleyball, but who am I to judge? Aside from that, they also changed the title to Super Mario Spikers and added more aggressive gameplay. This made it more similar to their two prior Mario Soccer games in both title and concept. I mean, that game could also be described as a combination of soccer and American football. And interestingly enough, this move was inspired by Next Level Games' involvement in also developing a cancelled WWE game prior to Super Mario Strikers. So it seems like they took the ideas from that cancelled game and tried to incorporate it into this volleyball game to potentially make it a bit more exciting and action-packed. And so concept artists were working on this other title while they were also working on Strikers Charged. It was around the end of 2006 when the company settled on their new direction from early renders created in September. And luckily enough, some people got their hands on some of the animations made from the wrestling moves in Mario Spikers. Now, as we can see, the combat system incorporated special moves made up of established wrestling maneuvers. For instance, in one clip we can see a Yoshi performing a pile driver attack, or Waluigi stomps on Mario's stomach, who is grounded laying on his back. But that's not all. They also created a large amount of different arenas for this game. For example, in one of the level concepts, we can see a huge wrestling arena, which is the setting of a match between Mario and Wario. And each one of these was planned to sport its own unique environmental gimmicks, such as a carnival wheel, which would introduce random effects into play based upon where it landed. Clearly, this game was going to be absolutely crazy, and in some ways more violent than any other Super Mario sports game that came before. Now, I'm not sure how it would have worked, because usually in volleyball both sides are on completely different sides of the field, and they never really switch sides or go to each other or anything like that. So who knows how you were supposed to reach them and use any of the wrestling moves that you had. Sadly enough, we don't know a whole lot about this game, because they didn't get too far. We are lucky that someone who worked at the company actually used stuff from this game for his portfolio. Now, Nintendo was initially open to the idea, giving them the budget to follow through as a reward for completing Mario Strikers Charged. However, after Nintendo saw the team's pitch, they weren't that excited, and it was not greenlit due to the level of violence. But a playable prototype was created before development ceased in 2007. And in the end, an unnamed member of the development team came forward and stated that the game clashed with Nintendo's Code of Honor, which was the reason for its rejection. Now, the game went entirely unannounced until information on it was leaked, and sadly enough, only test footage and concept art were ever released from the project. Now, despite Nintendo passing on the game, Next Level Games would continue to work with Nintendo and their properties, with the team developing other Wii console games like Punch-Out! And Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, even though that was a 3DS game if I remember correctly. Now, personally, I'm disappointed it was actually cancelled. However, I can also understand why. If you look at some of the animations, you can see that it's more than just rough play, and Nintendo wants to remain mostly family-friendly after all, especially with the Mario games, which we have seen examples of in the past. I mean, Bowser used to have some sort of a voice back in older games, but after some not-so-PG things happened, they got rid of that as well. Google it if you want to know more, because I'm not in the mood to get in trouble with YouTube or the cancel culture side of the internet. Now, sadly enough, this interesting sports game was the victim. And so the most insane Mario sports game we ever got remains the Super Mario Strikers series. However, don't worry, I know this might bring you to tears, but luckily enough I got more videos on my channel, so check them out. They might cheer you up. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, click the bell, do all the good stuff, yay! And let me know in the comments down below what you think about the vid, or if you have any ideas. Again, I read all comments, especially the first week. My eyes are everywhere like Sauron. Bye.